That client review was brutal.
We're gonna be underwater for weeks.
I'm already so pruny.
This is fixable.
Good morning. Good morning. Let us please all settle down. We are going to stand to observe a moment of silence. Immediately thereafter, we're going to play the national anthem. I've been told that on national TV, it doesn't look good. It looks like we don't know what we are supposed to do when the national anthem is sung. Only the president of the country, Cyril Ramaphosa, has got the right to put his hand like this. As ordinary citizens, our hands must be on the side. So I hope we all understand. No putting your hands at the back, no doing certain things. It's a very important moment for us as a country where we realize the importance of that song and what it means to us. So may we all just make sure that we are ready as we're going to observe a moment of silence. There's not really supposed to be moving around. Really, even our cameraman at a point must also take his space. So as soon as he finishes with the pictures, and we can start. May we all stand to observe a moment of silence. Thank you. May we have the national anthem played?
May
Thank you. We may all take a seat. Good morning. Once more, today is day 3 of the investigative inquiry into the scholar transport in the province of Northwest. And as I said yesterday, today is a very important day because this is where we get to hear from those that are in authority as to whether things are being done as required. Where are we falling short? What is it that needs to be done in order to ensure compliance? And also to make sure that there is accountability, transparency from those in authority. It is so that these proceedings are in terms of Section 15 of the South African Human Rights Act. And the emerging themes from this engagement are the evidence collectively points to recurring themes, including potential lapses in oversight, systemic failures, and areas where improvements may be necessary. The inquiry has gathered and examined a substantial body of evidence, including witness testimonies, documentary records, and videos. The following issues are coming out: labor-related violations, discontinuation of scholar transport program in certain areas, the quality of evidence, issues of overcrowding, mechanical failures of buses, lack of vetting of drivers, lack of backup transport, lack of monitoring, lack of valid licenses and permits, impact on teaching and learning, the role of the Treasury, delayed payments to service providers, just to name a few. All these impact on the right to access, on the right of access to basic education, which is guaranteed in terms of Section 29 of the Constitution. Today, we will hear from state functionaries responsible for discharging their constitutional obligations associated with this right. This includes the Department of Transport as well as the Department of Basic Education. The inquiry remains committed to ensuring a thorough and impartial investigation of all evidence before, as it is required in terms of Section 15 of the South African Human Rights Commission Act. Further examination and clarification of specific aspects may be required as proceedings continue. So we are really grateful that the department has availed itself, despite what they've heard in the social media. It did not deter them from accounting this morning to a Chapter 9 institution, that is the Human Rights Commission. So I thank you so much, all of you, really, for joining us. We are now going to move over to the introduction of the panel. My name is Nomashubi Kwinana. Children, persons with disabilities, older persons, and independent monitoring mechanisms. I'm also responsible for 2 provinces, Northwest as well as Northern Cape. And I'm going to hand over to the provincial manager, Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and good morning to all colleagues and those in attendance this morning. My name is Shirley Mlombo, the Provincial Manager for the Commission in the Northwest.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tsidiso Lekoma. I work as a candidate attorney for the Commission. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Onkarabetsi Tebeng. I'm a legal officer at the Provincial Office of the Commission in the Northwest.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. My name is Lindokuhle Mdabe. I am the research advisor to Commissioner Quinan.
Good morning, Chairperson, and everyone in the house, HOD. My name is Emmanuel. Surname is Nkonde. I work for the Commission in the Northwest. I am the senior legal officer. With leave of the Commission of the Chairperson, may I proceed to also introduce some of our team members?
You may proceed.
Thank you, Commissioner. We have Mlulegi Nzimande, who is our technical person, who's giving us support. He works for the office in the Northwest. We have Usis Liano, who's our administrator, taking care and making sure that this is how we look today. And then we've got Uput Given, who is our media personnel, making sure that the media is here and we are constantly interacting and updating them. We have Uput Shon, who's assisting us with scribing and taking records of what is happening today here. And in the past, I did not introduce Mr. Dazuka. He's also one of our champions that is on the ground doing work and assisting the Commission. If I have not left anyone, I will end there. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nkonde. Thank you to the team for your introduction. We are now going to move over to recapping of day 2, and that is going to be done by the Provincial Manager. Ms. Mlombo, over to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. On day 3, we heard evidence from 3 organizations, namely SANCO, SATU, as well as NAPTOSA. We were scheduled in terms of our program to also hear evidence from COSAS, as well as the National Association for School Governing Bodies, but the 2 latter organizations became unavailable to provide the evidence they had undertaken to submit to the Commission. In terms of the evidence that was given by SANCO, it mainly centered around an incident that took place or allegedly took place on the 10th of February 2025 relating to a scholar bus that was transporting learners from Dekhane to Mahelo Primary School. They indicated in their evidence that they noted that the bus was moving in a crab-like fashion, taking up more than 1 lane, which resulted in them stopping the bus while they were on their way in the morning to Mahikeng for another engagement. They further indicated in their evidence that upon stopping the bus, they noted that it had leaking oil and that the driver was, visibly intoxicated. And they indicated upon their interaction with him, it was agreed that the driver will not continue the operations with the bus in the current state and will rather take it to the owner so that the issues that raise concerns about the safety or roadworthiness of the bus are addressed. However, they indicated that to their amazement, when they returned on the same road in the afternoon of the same day, they noted the same bus on the road, but now with learners on board, evidencing that their concerns have not been taken to heart by the bus driver. They were requested in this regard to submit further evidence because they indicated that they had taken video footage of the driver and all the interactions they've had with the driver. So they were requested to provide that further evidence. They also gave evidence yesterday about other schools, one school where a teacher was alleged to be teaching learners in the toilet. They were also requested to provide further evidence relating to those incidences. When asked about what they attribute these challenges that they've noted to relating to scholar transport, they indicated that corruption to them was one of the biggest drivers for the challenges within the scholar transport system in the Northwest. The evidence of SANCO was then followed by the evidence of NAPTOSA, as well as SATU, the two trade unions in the Northwest working within the education sector. They canvassed similar themes as the other presenters in their evidence, particularly the presenters from day one, who raised concerns around overcrowding within scholar transport in the province, and roadworthy transport that is being used, learners arriving late at school, learners being picked up late from school. They also raise concerns about late payment of scholar transport providers, which in some instances operators are saying we cannot address the issues with our vehicles because we have not been paid by the departments. They also echoed the evidence that was raised by Mr. Dazuka relating to bullying that is happening in scholar transport, particularly when younger age groups are mixed with, older learners, and coupled with other challenges which fuel bullying. They attributed the challenges mainly to a lack of proper coordination between the Department of Education and COSATMA, and the lack of clarity regarding who should be doing what within that space. They were asked about the reporting of these issues by their members to the relevant departments. They indicated that they will try to source additional evidence regarding the reports that may have been submitted by their members who are represented in the different schools regarding the challenges they are observing on the ground. But SATU in particular indicated that they've also been engaging with the Department of Education regarding these issues, but when they tried to engage with COSATMA, they were told that COSATMA does not report to SATU. So those were the challenges they've raised then regarding accountability and their attempts to engage with all stakeholders within the sector to address the issue of scholar transport in the provinces. In their evidence, they further indicated that all these challenges have a direct impact on teaching and learning. They also contribute to dropout of learners in some instances, and also it places a strain on teachers who often have to repeat lessons to help learners who may have missed out on tuition to catch up as part of the education program. As part of the recommendations, then they really called for more stringent enforcement, for more stringent compliance of the scholar transport program in the province. This, Commissioner, is just a summary of the evidence that we received yesterday. Thank you.
Thank you so much, PM. We are now going to move over to the inquiry procedure. As I've already said, this procedure is governed by Section 15 of the South African Human Rights Act. And I will read verbatim. It's a bit of a long section. but it says section 15 at subsection 1, pursuant to the provisions of section 15 subsection 3 of the commission may, in order to enable it to exercise its powers and function, A, conduct or cause to be conducted an investigation that is necessary for that purpose. B, through a commissioner or any member of staff duly authorized by a commissioner, require from any person such particulars and information as may be reasonably necessary in connection with any investigation. C, require any person by notice in writing under the hand of a commissioner addressed and delivered by a member of staff or a sheriff in relation to an investigation to appear before it at a time and place specified in such notice and to produce to it all articles or documents in the possession or custody or under the control of any such person which may be necessary in connection with their investigation, provided that such notice must contain the reasons why such person's presence is needed and why any such article or document should be provided. And D, through a commissioner, administer an oath to or take an affirmation from any person referred to in paragraph C or any person present at a place referred to in that paragraph, irrespective of whether or not such person has been required under the said paragraph to appear before it and question him or her under oath or affirmation in connection with any matter which may be necessary in connection with the investigation. Subsection 2A, any person questioned under subsection 1 must, subject to the provisions of paragraph B and subsection 3 and 4, Roman figure 1, be competent and compelled to answer all questions put to him or her regarding any fact or matter connected with the investigation of the commission, notwithstanding that the answer may incriminate him or her, and Roman figure 2, be compelled to produce to the commission any article or document in his or her possession or custody or under his or her control, which may be necessary in connection with that investigation. Subsection B, a person referred to in paragraph A is only competent and compelled to answer a question or compelled to produce any article or document contemplated in the paragraph if, Roman figure 1, the commission in consultation with the department, with the director rather, of public prosecution who has jurisdiction issue an order to that effect, Roman figure 2, the commission is satisfied that to require such information from such person is reasonable, necessary, and justifiable in an open and democratic society based on freedom and equality. And Roman figure 3, in the commission's judgment, such person has refused or is likely to refuse to answer a question or to produce any article or document on the basis of his or her privilege against self-incrimination. 3A, any incriminating answer or information obtained or incriminating evidence directly or indirectly derived from a question in terms of subsection 1 is not admissible as evidence against the person concerned in criminal proceeding in a court of law or by any body or institution established by or under any law except in criminal proceedings where the person stands trial on a charge of perjury or charge contemplated in section 22 subsection B of this act or section 319 subsection 3 of the Criminal Procedure Act 1955, Act 56 of 1955. B, I'm going to go all the way today, I apologize. B, subject to the provisions of section 2A, Roman figure 1, the law regarding privilege as applicable to a witness summoned to give evidence in a criminal case in a court of law applies in relation to the questioning of a person in terms of subsection 1. 4, any person appearing before the commission by virtue of the provisions of subsection 1C and D may be assisted at such examination by a legal rep and is entitled to pursue such documents referred to in subsection 1C or any other relevant documents. 5, if it appears to the commission during the course of an investigation that any person is being implicated in the matter being investigated, the commission must afford such person the opportunity to be heard in connection therewith by way of giving of evidence or making submissions, and such person or his legal representative is entitled through the commission to question other witnesses determined by the commission who have appeared before the commission in terms of this section. Subsection 6, subject to the provisions of this act, the procedure to be followed in conducting an investigation must be determined by the commission with due regard to the circumstances of each case. 7, the commission must make known publicly the particulars of the procedure which it has determined in terms of subsection 6. 8, if it is in the interest of justice or if harm to any person might otherwise ensue, the commission or a commissioner may direct that any person or category of persons or all persons, the presence of whom is not desirable, may not be present at the proceedings during the investigations or any part thereof. 9, notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained in any law, no person may disclose to any other person the contents of any document in possession of a commissioner or member of the staff or record of evidence given before the commission during an investigation unless the commission determines otherwise. A bit of a long section, as I said, but I'm sure it is clear. And because we are also talking to those in authority, maybe I'm also preaching to the converted. But I hope it is understood. Thank you so much. We are now going to move over then to our next item, which is the presentation by the department. May I just determine, is it the HOD as well as the assistant?
Acting HOD.
Acting HOD and?
The resource person. I've got my director legal. Can she tell us as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Director Legal. Without you, I'm dead. Please join us. Okay.
Thank you so much. May I then start with you, acting HOD, to please stand. Is it the oath or the affirmation?
The affirmation. I don't know what that means.
Is it you? Do you believe in God or you do not believe in God?
I do.
You believe in God?
Yes.
Then it is the oath.
Okay. So now I'm clear.
All right. May I please have your full names for the record?
My name is Prince Masilo.
And your age?
I'm 61.
Thank you. And do you have any objection in taking the prescribed oath?
None.
Do you regard the prescribed oath to be binding on your conscience?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, nothing but the truth? If that is so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you so much. You may take a seat. May I move over to, please stand. And just for the record, you also mentioned your position. Your full names, please,
Segametse Tlhabanyane,
and your position.
I'm the Senior Education Specialist for Learner Transport in the province.
Thank you. Your age?
32
Is it the oath or the affirmation?
is the oath.
Do you have any objection taking the prescribed oath?
No,
Do you regard the prescribed oath to be binding on your conscience?
yes,
Do you swear that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, nothing but the truth? If that is so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
so help me God.
Thank you so much. You may please take a seat. Madam Counselor, or is it Madam Attorney or Madam Legal Practitioner? Let's be safe.
Good morning, Chair, and apologies for arriving late. I actually have an urgent matter which is going to court. I received documents this morning, so yeah. Hence, I'm here this time.
It is a life of a practitioner. It's understandable.
Yes.
All right. May we please have your full names on record?
Atsholofelo Lurumo,
Your age?
37,
Is it the oath or the affirmation?
oath,
Do you have any objection taking the prescribed oath?
no.
Do you regard the prescribed oath to be binding on your conscience?
Yes,
If that is so, do you swear that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, nothing but the truth? If that is so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
so help me God.
Thank you so much. You may
Thank you.
take a seat. Mr. Nkonde, your witnesses.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before I go to the witnesses, Commissioner, I want to, in the words of my provincial manager, I want to transact a certain issue that is on the program. The presentation is meant to start at 9:30 to 10:15, giving them, I think, 45 minutes. And then our questions are meant to take an hour. A lot of evidence has been led, and it would be, my submission, it would be an injustice if maybe we limit the time into what we imagined. I'm requesting humbly for your guidance so that we prepare the witnesses for what may happen, and also prepare even the gallery in terms of our timing, because the projected time is 2:00 and I don't foresee us finishing at that time. So can you guide us on that? Thank you.
Mr. Nkonde, I would say let's rather start, and we will be informed by the time as it progresses, how we will then proceed.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Masi. My apologies.
Mr. Masilo.
Mr. Masilo and the team. Commissioner, just before we go into the questions as well, in terms of our bundle and index, page 125 in the bundle, it's an invitation that was sent to the MEC of the department. If we page to page 130, the invitation was sent by Mr. Likoma on 6:15 p.m. on the 27th of January. A response was not received, And then a follow-up was also sent by Mr. Likoma on the 18th of February this year, 2:15. We did not also receive a response. Maybe before I go into more questions, can I find out? It may be an unfair question. Maybe, well, they know, they might not know. Then the whereabouts of the MEC, whether he's aware or not.
May I just request that you put on record the email also that was used,
Okay.
or how the letter was communicated
Okay.
to the MEC.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. The email that was sent, it was sent by, the email address is hsarc.org.za. It was sent to, let me spell the name. It's IMAUC, it's L. It's LMAUCO at nwpg.gov.za. It was also sent into, I assume it's the same person, on a Gmail account on lebooauco@gmail.com. People who were copied in the email are GOLETUMISO@gmail.com. And then another person who was copied is the provincial manager, Miss. It is the email address is smlombo@sahrc.org.za. The second person that was copied is Emmanuel Ngonde. The email address is enkonde@sahrc.org.za. And the last person that was copied is Miss Liano Modikwe. The address is LMODIKO@sahrc.org.za. That was the original email that was sent with the people who were copied. And then the follow-up, which was sent on the 28th, was sent again to IMAUCO@nwpg.gov.za. Ms. Shelley Mlombo, the provincial manager, was copied. Ms. Liano Mudikwa was copied. Mr. Emmanuel Nkonde was copied. Ms. Onkarabezi Tebeng was also copied. The email was sent by the same person, that is Tsidiso Likoma, the same email address that has been referred to above. Yes, it was sent on the 18th of February at 2:15 in the afternoon.
May we also have the contents of the letter on record?
The contents of the letter, Commissioner, it's the invitation, it's the notice in terms of Section 15, subsection 1 of the South African Human Rights Commission Act, number 40 of 2013. May I introduce all the contents of the letter? In brackets, it's written an investigation of the South African Human Rights Commission on scholar transport challenges in the Northwest. The title is Northwest Department of Education. It's written, attention, Miss Tsiatso Ntsetsao, yes, Viola Motsumi, in a comma, that is a member of executive committee. The email address that was sent to is lmauco@nwpg.gov.za, and also the email that was referred to earlier, the Gmail account lebouco@gmail.com, and then the last email, which was also sent to or referred to in the letter, is giletumiso@gmail.com. It proceeds, it says, whereas the South African Human Rights Commission, in brackets, the Commission, is an institution established in terms of Section 181, subsection 1, item B of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, 1996, in brackets, the Constitution, for purposes of supporting constitutional democracy. Paragraph 2. In terms of Section 184, subsection 1 of the Constitution, the Commission is specifically required to promote respect for human rights, promote the protection, development, and attainment of human rights, and monitor and assess the observance of human rights in South Africa. Paragraph 3. In terms of Section 184, subsection 2 of the Constitution, the Commission has the powers as regulated by national legislation necessary to perform its function, including the power, item A, to investigate and report on the observance of human rights, to take steps to secure appropriate redress when human rights have been violated. Paragraph 4, Section 15, subsection 1, item B of the South African Human Rights Commissions Act, number 40 of 2013, as amended, in brackets, the SAHRC Act, further provides that the Commission may, in order to enable it to exercise its powers and perform its function, require from any person such particulars and information as may be reasonably necessary in connection with any investigation. Now, the next title of, before we move to paragraph 5, and whereas, paragraph 5, the Commission in the Northwest has received several complaints relating to the provision of scholar transport in the Northwest. These complaints are about the lack of provision of scholar transport in some communities, the unreliability of scholar transport in other communities, as well as concerns about the adequacy, safety, and roadworthiness of scholar transport provided. The complaints point to systemic challenges with the provision of scholar transport in the Northwest. Paragraph 6. Whilst the Commission commenced the investigation of these complaints through correspondence with the concerned parties, including your department and the conduct of site inspections. Given the systemic nature of the complaints, the Commission will also be convening an investigative inquiry as part of its investigative process. Paragraph 7. The objectives of the investigative inquiry are to, amongst others, 7.1, assess the scale and the extent of the challenges relating to the delivery of quality scholar transport service in the Northwest. Paragraph 7.2, assess the root causes of the challenges relating to the delivery of quality scholar transport services in the Northwest. That was page 2. Now we're moving to page 3, which in our pack is marked as, in index is marked as page 127. Paragraph 7.3 continues to say, assess the efficacy of the measures currently in place to address scholar transport challenges in the Northwest, examine the existing laws, policies, and regulations related to scholar transport in the Northwest Province and identify gaps and weaknesses. Paragraph 7.5. Examine the impact of scholar transport challenges on learners' right to access basic education, their safety, and overall well-being. Lastly, which is paragraph 7.6, examine additional measures that need to be put in place to address scholar transport challenges in the Northwest. Now, therefore, paragraph 8. In terms of section 15, subsection 1, item B of the SAHRC Act, you are hereby invited to make submissions to the Commission as part of its investigative inquiry. Specifically, you are requested to provide the Commission with a report containing the following information. Paragraph 8.1. Your knowledge of any scholar transport challenges in the Northwest and their causes. 2. The measures taken by you in your capacity as the executive authority to address the identified challenges and the efficacy of measures taken. Paragraph 8.3. The additional measures you intend to take in your capacity as the executive authority to address the identified challenges. 8.4. The additional measures you propose to be taken by our sister departments to address the identified challenges. Lastly, any other information in your view that may assist the Commission's probe. Paragraph 9. You are requested to submit the requested information at the following address: the physical address of the Commission, which is number 25, Haystack Street, Rustenburg, 0299. In the following page, which is indexed as 128, or email enkonde@sahrc.org.za and lmodikoe@sahrc.org.za. Paragraph 10. We would be grateful to receive the requested information by no later than 14 February, together with all the necessary supporting documents. Paragraph 11. You are further requested to appear before the Commission's investigative inquiry in person to respond to any questions that may emanate from your written submissions. You may be assisted by a legal representative during the proceedings. Paragraph 12. The investigative inquiry is scheduled as follows. Date, the 13th day, date 11 to 13 March 2025. Time 9 o'clock each day. Venue Mafikeng Northwest, in brackets, exact venue to be confirmed in due course. Paragraph 13. Please note that should you fail to adhere to the Commission's request in terms of this notice, the Commission will proceed in terms of Section 15, subsection 1, item C of the SAHRC Act. Paragraph 14. Please note further that in terms of Section 22H of the SAHRC, any state official who fails to afford the Commission the necessary assistance referred to in terms of Section 4, subsection 2, or Section 13, subsection 2 of the SAHRC Act shall be guilty of an offense and may be liable on conviction to a fine or imprisonment for a period not exceeding 6 months. This document, Chairperson, was dated at Pretoria on the 27th day of January, and it is under the hand of the Chairperson, that is Ms. Nomahlubi Kwinana, the Commissioner in the South African Human Rights Commission. That is the content of the document. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Nkonde. You may proceed with the questions.
Yes. The question was shortly to ask, maybe he may know or he may not know where the MSc is today in light or in view of this document that we've just introduced into the record. Mr. Mashilo, can ask. Masilo, sorry.
Masilo.
Yes, Mr. Masilo.
Commissioner, once more, good morning. I must give a background of myself. I'm just under flu. I've sedated myself just to be here because I take this meeting very, very seriously. On Monday, I was in Cape Town. Tuesday, appearing before the NCOP. I even phoned the provincial manager to say, hey, this came, careful. But I said, I'll be here today. We did deploy senior managers for Monday, Tuesday. I must also register my concern that instead of being here on time, one of them came here around 3 o'clock. I'll deal with that. So the Honorable MEC is not in the country, is in Italy. And therefore we are here with the team to provide the required responses. We are aware of the letter written to us. I started acting on the 1st of February. And when I received the communique of the inquiry, I immediately dispatched the report. It was signed, you can see it there. When I received it, because I don't delay with documents on the 17th of February. We want to profusely apologize for the delay. It was not intended. Hence, when I received this information, I immediately called the colleagues that are responsible for these issues of transport. They reside with the DDG responsible for institutions, which is Dr. Mvula, and Mr. Sibugu, who's the director. They are both not here. Then we responded. So we want to profusely apologize once more, but we're here. As I said to the provincial manager, I will be here. Dago Blue sick or not sick, to appear before the commissioner, because we respect and we appreciate, we honor the work of the Human Rights Commission. We have already received another inquisitorial matter that needs our attention. We're busy with it, and we're at an advanced stage to respond, because we see such oversight being very critical to us. It's not only the Human Rights Commission that is dealing with your portfolio committee, your public protector. We respond. We want to apologize once more, Commissioner, for this delay. It was not intended. Like I'm saying, we try to be up to speed with responses, because they assist us to be better, to be a better department, to provide for our learners in our schools quality education through these interactions. I've even approved one matter from Human Rights to deal with some matter in Dr. RSM. I've approved immediately without any delay. So we appreciate such engagements, and we are here to give the necessary responses. Probably in the event of any other challenges, we will then indicate, Commissioner, that some of the things will be brought to you in writing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Masila. Maybe the second question for me would be, what was your position before you assumed this acting role?
Apologies for interjecting.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Interjecting there, Mr. Nkonde. Mr. Nkonde, I thought we are still establishing the contents of the letter.
Okay, thank you.
Right on record.
My apologies.
Do you still have questions on it?
Commissioner, I don't think I have further questions on it, because
No, you don't have to explain. You don't have to explain.
yes,
I can then.
I take the response. I will deal with what has been submitted today, with it later.
You'd want to deal with it later.
Yes.
Okay, let me invite other colleagues if they do have questions based on the response that has been given by Mr. Masilo. Ms. Tebeng,
Thank you, Commissioner. Nothing from me.
thank you. Mr. Lekoma,
I don't have any questions, Commissioner.
Mr. Mtabe,
I have no questions on the score, your Commissioner.
thank you so much. Provincial Manager,
Thanks, Commissioner. Just one issue on the response given by Acting HOD. You would have heard the notice, particularly on page 127, that the MEC is requested to account on her knowledge of the challenges and what she has done as the executive authority to address the challenges and what she intends to do in that capacity. But I've heard you in your response to say you are here to respond for the department. So I just wanted to clarify that you are also in a position to be responding to the specific issues that MEC was requested to respond on.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think our report on our response will, to a certain extent, cover those issues. You will recall that the executive authority will work through the administrative system, which is ourselves. So we will, if you go through our report, you will see that we have covered much of the issues that are raised here.
No, thank you, Commissioner. I suppose then we will deal with that, hear your evidence, and determine for ourselves whether it does provide an account of what she has done in terms in that executive of oversight over the department, but and then to the extent that we may hold the view that it does not respond to that oversight of function of an executive authority, then we'll make further submissions. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. From myself, the question is, when did she know that she will be traveling to Italy? That's the first question.
I think in the beginning of the month of February, towards the end of January, there was that invitation to travel to Italy.
Do you have the exact date?
Not necessarily for now, but I will provide.
Now, are we confirming receipt of the letter as it has been read into record?
Yes, ma'am, Commissioner. Hence, we were able to provide the responses.
Now, if same has been received, is the communication with regard to the travel arrangements of the MEC that were communicated to the Provincial Office of the Human Rights Commission?
I'm not quite sure about that, but we'll have to investigate and respond.
In order for us to cross this hurdle, is it possible to find that information? I'm sure you have already heard what would follow in the event the Commission's request is not being adhered to. So are we able to ensure that all is put on record? Is it available? I would have imagined HOD that as soon as you agreed to assume the role of the MEC, you would have been prepared. You have attended our other engagements before in the office. You do know that in the event, whether it is an issue of vis major, person being ill, you'd still have to ensure that there's proof to show what would have been a challenge that would have disallowed a person not to attend our engagement.
Commissioner, what we'll then provide is the approval of the Premier for the trip of the Honorable MEC as proof that she's not in the country, if that will suffice for you.
I'm coming from this premise. Whilst you said you take this process seriously, and this can only be shown by the communication that should have been availed to the Commission, and even maybe consider to postpone in order to accommodate the MEC. Because whilst, yes, you at the moment are the accounting officer, the worrisome thing is that you are acting even in the position. And the truth being told is that the buck stops with her. So she is supposed to be here. We don't have anything in writing that says, firstly, she's in Italy, why she had to go to Italy, and even request this commission to excuse her from the proceedings. And of course, then tell us, when will she be available for this engagement? It is a provincial crisis, which has also been termed a national crisis, that is scholar transport issues.
I would agree that there was an oversight on that matter. And
but how do we cross the hurdle? Before we can proceed, Are you able to source the information? Why she had to travel, which we are going to put on record, because that allows me or that assists me to make a determination whether how we should proceed.
We will try to request my office to do that.
Can I give you 5 minutes to try and source the information? We're going to adjourn for 5 minutes. Please source that information. It must be put on record when we come back. Thank you. Mr. Nkonde, over to you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Mr. Masilo, before you respond, since you said you are speaking on behalf of the department, can we find out from you whether, one, there is proper delegation, and if it is there, how was it communicated, and can we be benefited with that documentation or email that gives you that authority to speak on behalf of the MEC? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. There was a question around, before I come to this one, as to maybe should I respond to it of my substantive position. He did ask that question, that before I became an acting SG, I am a DDG for curriculum management and delivery, substantive. Therefore, I started acting on the 1st of February. We did send out communique indicating the delegation that will be here. And at that time, when we went to Cape Town, we indicated that I will be here on the 13th, but the delegation that was sent here from the 11th would be led by Dr. Mvula. So I indicated to the provincial manager that indeed I'll be here, because she insisted that the acting SG should be here. Therefore, I'm here as an acting SG. But in my absence on the 11th and 12th, Dr. Mvula was leading the delegation. Well, therefore, I'm here by virtue of being the acting SG of the department.
There's a follow-up.
It's not a follow-up, it's just to provide context, Commissioner. You will note, what page was that again, the notice? There were two notices that were issued, Mr. Masilo. There's the notice to the MEC.
125.
Yes, there's a notice to the MEC on page 125, right? And then if you go to page 132, there's the notice to the HOD. And at the time, or at least we had not received the information, it was Mr. Sishibe. So there are two notices where the HOD is required to give information on certain aspects, and there is a notice to the MEC where they are required to give information on certain aspects. And the reason why you are asked about the delegation is not the delegation of authority for you speaking in the office or in the capacity of accounting, of the accounting authority. But when you were asked about the MEC's whereabouts, you indicated that you have authority to speak on her behalf. So is the delegation of authority to speak on behalf of the executive authority that is being sought, because we are only at this moment dealing with the notice to the MEC, but you will still give evidence on the notice given to the accounting officer of the department. So I hope maybe the distinction is clearer. And if maybe there was confusion, you may want to revisit your initial answer when I asked, do you have the authority to speak on behalf of the executive authority, being the MEC?
Yeah, Commissioner, those complexities, they get deeper and deeper as we discuss this matter. I did at some point acknowledge that oversight when I was responding to this matter, given the situation that we find ourselves in, while the other one is acting, the other one come in. And then I want to also believe that if that is the case on page 125, we will then submit that probably if there's nothing in writing for page 125 in particular, then we will humbly request that we allow the Honorable MEC, because I've just spoken to the Chief of Staff around these matters, to provide her responses in writing within a particular period, while I'm dealing with page 132, which pertains to me.
Can I then establish something? Are you therefore withdrawing the response that you gave to the question that came from the provincial manager to say that you are speaking on behalf of the MEC as well?
Let me, for now, provisionally withdraw it so that I don't speculate on certain things and focus on page 127 for now. Because I was saying then, our responses that are in writing would cover paragraph 8 and its subsidiaries. I was of the view that it would be covered there with recommendations and remedial action. And the manager said we will then determine it in your response whether this is also covered. So I was of the view that it would be covered by our written response. But then if you insist that there should be a written delegation for me to speak on those matters, for now we don't have.
Okay, let me not labor on that point because I've got other things that are coming up, but for the sake of progress, we will accept that provisional withdrawal.
Okay, so thank you for the withdrawal, but you recall that in my questions, I also requested a proof of why she had to travel to Italy, and of course, communication to us, which I think you have already put on record that none was done, to explain herself as to why she could not avail herself this morning. So is there proof of why it was imperative for her to travel to Italy? When one has regard to a right that is being violated in the country, where other people would even say, you know, the province is burning, and we have the head of the executive who's out of the country without proper explanation to a Chapter 9 institution that deals with the human rights. So do we have that document, or it is that it does not exist as well?
We will provide a document, it is there.
So it will be subject to what will be provided, but on hindsight, it is important to state that as we appear this morning, same was not taken into account, which is not supposed to be the case with regard to how this matter should be handled. As I said earlier on, we have been dealing with the department for some time, and I thought we have gone to a process where we have sort of schooled each other about when you appear before the commission, what is required of you as the accounting officer, and of course, in the event you'd want to speak as well on any other issues that only the MEC would have been privy to. So at this stage, we are going to park the issue. We are not saying it has been dealt with fully. And at a later stage, we are definitely going to canvass it. I would advise you to rather, because you do have your other colleagues in the room, to try and source those documents so that by the end of the day, I am able to make a decision or a determination how we are going to proceed. So for now, I'm going to allow it that issue will just stand down, and we'll then go over into issues that you would be able to canvass with the HOD.
Yes, thank you very much.
Mr. Nkonde.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I will make my submissions before he stands down, conclude his evidence. But I think it's also important, Commissioner, for the purpose of record to state that, because I see the insistence of the acting HOD, he is insisting that I'm acting. For this purpose, we are taking him as an HOD. He is the accounting authority for the department, acting or not. Whether this document, if it came before him, but today he is in charge. That's one thing that I wanted to put on record. Thank you.
He has been since the 1st of February,
Yes.
from what he has said.
Yes.
So when you're acting, you immediately assume the role in its entirety.
Yes.
So yes, the buck stops with you, HOD in the department.
Thank you. Then let me go to my questions. Maybe as well for context. How long have you been with the department as a TTG?
5 years.
Okay, that's good enough. Thank you very much. You submitted documents on behalf of the department following the notice that the Human Rights Commission served to your office. The documents, they start from page 136. For the purpose of record, can you introduce the information into record? Without any disturbance, we will deal with issues that may come up after your presentation.
Must I take you through the entire document?
Everything that you want us to hear, or the commission to hear today. Thank you.
This letter is to Ms. Shelim Lombo, the Provincial Manager, Northwest Province Office, South African Human Rights Commission, 25 Haystack Street, Rustenburg, 202999.
If I may come in, Commissioner, you don't have to read the document word for word.
Right.
You can speak to the document, okay, because fine. It is your document. You don't have to, yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was in response to the notice that we have referred to. In this report, we are providing the responses to the issues raised. The first one is about the number of learners in schools that are serviced by the scholar transport program. You can see the total there is 53,299 learners, and number of schools is 358, and they are disaggregated per district. But what we are also raising there is the issue of a deviation that happened in the district of the RSM as a result of the change in the number of learners. You will note that and in the event of, during the opening of the schools, other schools will gain, other schools will then have less numbers. So in the Dr. RSM, the numbers decreased. And the reason for that decrease is because there was a new school that was opened, and therefore they allowed learners not now to need transport for those learners. The second point that we are raising there, the number of learners that are eligible for scholar transport, but are currently not benefiting the number is 8,340. On page 137, we are giving a narrative as to why that is the case, why these learners are not benefiting. And you will see that there are new needs, but those needs cannot be responded to by COSATMA because of budgetary constraints. And this happened between the financial year. And therefore, the new financial year probably will cover those learners. The third point is about learners, schools and learners that are not receiving the scholar transport. I've already indicated in point number 3 the reasons why those learners are not able to enjoy the scholar transport. As a department, we also identified...
May I interject? For the benefit of those that are listening, they don't have the document. So if, yes, do not read verbatim, but you must still tell us what is it that is encapsulated in the document, because whoever is listening now, they're thinking to themselves, what are you talking about? The numbers that you're referring to and so forth, the reasons.
That's appreciated, Commissioner. We always do, after the 10th day survey and our analysis of the needs, we have done that to see how many more learners require the scholar transport. Then we'll deposit those new figures with COSATMA. Now, what we are saying here, these numbers that I indicated, which is now 8,340 of learners that are not benefiting yet require transport, is as a result of budgetary constraints. COSATMA indicated to us the acknowledgement of the receipt of our new numbers, our new needs, but then they promised that during the financial year 25-26, they will review the budget with the hope of absorbing these new numbers. So we do have this need, but we cannot always support them because of the budget constraints by COSATMA. We have identified challenges as a department that we have shared with the COSATMA. The unroadworthy vehicles that was been discussed earlier, the overloading and multiple trips, where together with the COSATMA we're dealing with that, the late payment of operators, and as a result, learners not coming to school because they cannot be transported, non-compliant vehicles. These are the key challenges that we've identified, but we are in collaboration with COSATMA to say, how do we mitigate these matters? Now, what would be the impact of these challenges that we're raising here, where learners now are impacted by these vehicles that are not good, which SATU also raised, and our unions raised it. Number one, it is the impact on teaching and learning. In any event, when a vehicle breaks down and our lessons commence at 8, now you find learners are stranded on the road, not arriving on time. They miss the opportunity of teaching and learning. They become absent, and it compromises even their safety, because if they are stuck on the road there, the safety of the learners is compromised, and therefore some of them will find them walking, trying to avert the situation of not coming to school, trying to walk to the school, and that is very much unsafe, and some of them are prone to accidents because these are roads that are used by all other vehicles, and there might be injuries. Again, learners, if they not come to school, due to issues of multiple trips. You'll find a stampede in the bus. Then it's again issues of safety. It affects their learners psychologically. They become fatigued because they are sitting cramped in the bus, having to hold on to their books, and it becomes a problem. And obviously, if there's anything, learners get injured. Issues of late payments, again, it affects our teaching. All of these things affect teaching and learning. Because in this matter, you'll find today there is a bus, it's paid. The following trips are not adhered to. Therefore, learners are unable to come to school. And then this leads to absenteeism. You can see now learner performance is affected, particularly where we have set targets in our system, right from grade R to grade 12. We do set performance systems to say at this point, during this quarter, learners must perform at this level. Now you can imagine if a learner is not at school for a consecutive period of time, the learner is losing on the lessons, the syllabus is not properly covered, and that it means the learners will lose. Well, I heard that issues of dropout, which still needs to be investigated, but most cases will be learning losses and learning gaps because learners are not at school. Now, the non-compliant vehicles, you find that instead of the buses that have been appointed, the owners will start using taxis, bakkies, which is highly a problem for us. Then these learners are crammed into those taxis. They are crammed behind those bakkies. And you know what has happened in other provinces where the entire group of learners were involved in accident because these things do overturn if they are overloaded. And therefore, these are the challenges that we have identified. We have been communicating with COSATMA, and we are also providing not only concerns, we are also providing remedial action, and we are also saying what is the progress to date. In terms of the unroadworthy vehicles, Commissioner, we are saying we have partnered with law enforcement through COSATMA. We have ramped up our monitoring of these buses, but also for overloading, we've provided a list. Chances are, at some point, we say we got 40 learners, for argument's sake. Then you find there's additional learners that need, like I said earlier, in some schools, they do have gained, after we've done our analysis, then those learners are brought in, and they were not on the original list. We are working on those to say, how do we ensure that we alleviate this overcrowding? So we do conduct overloading audit per district, per school. And we do, with COSATMA, provide some additional capacity. Because I said overloading is a problem when these learners are cramped in buses, and it becomes bad. Late payments, what COSATMA has done to date, they've introduced what we call integrated electronic payment system. And I think that matter is getting to a certain extent, resolved. And we are also improving human resource capacity to ensure that when invoices are presented, they are paid on time. I think it's COSATMA that is doing that. In the usage of non-compliant vehicles, Commissioner, again, the law enforcement is there. They are very strict on the streets. They do impound those buses, and therefore we are working together to ensure that we support one another. Now, these are the progresses that we are showing to say how do we ensure that there is inspection of vehicles, which is done by COSATMA. This was done between the 6th and the 14th of January 2025. We went out with the law enforcement, buses were inspected. There was an improvement around that. Updating the list of learners so that we alleviate overcrowding as well as multiple trips, both ourselves and COSATMA. We are continuously drawing these schedules so that we verify new needs. Like I indicated, there will always be needs because of in-migration and migration from other provinces, particularly around the areas of Bujanala and Dr. KK. We've seen that in migration. Therefore, we are looking at those lists so that we know exactly where there's a new need. The issue of payments, we are happy that COSATMA is doing that to ensure that payments are on time. By the 10th of December 2024, they held a meeting of learner transport operator workshops. They conducted those workshops, COSATMA. Another meeting was held on the 14th of January at the Munsiwa airport. The purpose of those meetings was to address challenges with delay in payments. And therefore, they are working around it around the clock, and they are providing support on how to correctly fill in the claims. Because at some point, we are told by COSATMA, which they will respond to, the invoice might come, but it's not properly completed. And therefore, it delays the payment. And therefore, they called all the service providers to assist them on how to properly and correctly fill in the claim forms. The laws are becoming very stringent in terms of non-compliant vehicles because we cannot compromise the safety of our learners at any time. Thank you very much. Well, what then, in conclusion, I can say, we have also submitted here a signed copy of the units, which was submitted to COSATMA, analysis of needs, inspection, all those things that I've spoken to. We do have POEs inside here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Masela. Let me start here. Do you agree with me that it's a leading question, but it's a safe question? That your main responsibility is the children.
Teaching and learning, thank you.
Yes, teaching and learning, teaching the children, right?
Yes, sir.
A lot of what you said speaks to COSATMA. Let me ask this question. We are still laying foundation. To your knowledge, has the Department of Education handled this program before?
I'm told it has before I arrived here in 2018.
Okay. To your knowledge, what was the reason why this project was moved from the Department of Education to COSATMA?
Basically because the responsibility of transport and regulations, acts and laws reside with COSATMA in terms of provision of transport.
Is that the reason why it was moved?
I might not be 100% correct, but I'm just stating the fact that who is responsible for provision of transport? I don't know what were the debates then that led, because in the country about 5 provinces still are responsible for scholarship within the education department. 4 are not. So there is that debate nationally to deal with that matter. But as to what happened then, I don't know. But I'm just giving a state of fact to say, ordinarily, it will be COSATMA responsible for transportation, law enforcement, end-to-end.
Through you, Chair, and through this revelation, may we request the accounting officer to get us those reasons and maybe come in a form of submission, because he is confirming that in 5 provinces, it still rests with the Department of Education. The dates will be discussed later as to when maybe that submission would come. Thank you. Now, SATU, when they gave their evidence yesterday, they brought a Latin term, loco parentis. I assume, and I think the assumption is safe, that you are the employer of teachers, and once the children are with you, you bear the responsibility of their safety, right? Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. Now, in the report that you've provided, you make admissions that pass. That's what I heard from you in a number of instances. That came up in your evidence. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. What is your responsibility as the department when you receive these type of complaints? A bus, your colleagues were here yesterday. There's a bus that is, when it's traveling, and the provincial mayor, when she was making the recap, spoke of that bus that travels like a crab, taking 2 lanes. So, what is the responsibility of the department when it sees this type of complaints?
No, thank you very much, Commissioner. I think the first thing that we do, we immediately inform or report to COSATMA to say we have this concern and there's evidence for them to immediately remove that bus of the system, because they appointed a service provider. It has responsibility to ensure that we've got safe buses. They've got an SLA with the service provider, and therefore I'm sure that in one of the agreement is the part that the bus should be roadworthy and reliable. And therefore, if that doesn't happen, it means there's a breach of contract between COSATMA and the service provider, which now is creating challenges for ourselves. And therefore, we do immediately report to COSATMA and indicate that this is a challenge. You recall that we had this morning was very much concerning. So that matter was reported in the morning. The driver was looking half sober, half drunk, was removed, but to the shock of everybody, that bus came. So that matter was discussed thoroughly with COSATMA, and therefore we do report and we expect that in terms of the SLA, they should implement that clause like we will do with our normal ordinary service providers. If a service provider does not provide according to the agreement, we cease that contract. So it is expected of them to then do the same. So we do report immediately such an incident.
Okay, let's get into that as well. Do you have emergency protocols with COSATMA?
Let me not speculate for now, but I'll come back to that one. I'll check with you. But we do have a continuous engagement to say, in terms of your SLA, these are the safety precautions, and we take them through our schools and the SGPs. Let me just say, yes, we do.
Can they be made available to us? And Commissioner, through you, the response says, can I not answer now? And then say, I don't want to speculate. Can we get a definitive answer so that we know? Because the reason why I'm asking for emergency protocols, scholar transport buses are on the road every day. And in terms of the SLA, there are specifications that if a bus breaks down, within 2 hours, the contractor must have provided another transport and deliver the kids at school. So it is very important because it disturbs the flow of, through you. Can I request that question?
Mr. Masilo is seated with his legal rep next to him. And I believe he's getting counsel from her. But that being said, Mr. Masilo, please do understand that once we do this inquiry, we're evidence-based. It is important to be direct insofar as your answers are concerned as to whether this is within your knowledge or it is not. Avoid speculation. If you are able to provide an answer, yes, do provide, but where you are not able to, maybe you can always, as you said earlier on, that you'd be prepared to provide more information, but it's not within your purview. That is fine to say that, because you need to avoid a situation where you entangle yourself in saying things that just do not exist out there. Thank you, Mr. Nkonde.
Thank you.
Over to you.
Yes. Can I ask the question again? Do we have emergency protocols or not?
Let me provide the responses in due course, because I'm reliably told that COSATMA has appointed backup operators in the event of such. However, we will provide further clarity on this.
Can I request that we don't speak for COSATMA? They will speak. My question is very simple. I'm asking about the constant and direct lines if there's a problem, because this is a contract and COSATMA ordinarily wouldn't know that there's a problem. So what is the emergency line that you use to report these things in order to be remedied immediately?
Remember, you're sworn in, your other colleagues next to you, they've got the right to also take the mic and answer directly. You don't have to struggle alone.
No, thank you, sir.
If the answer is within their knowledge, they must please answer
if he is fine with
directly.
No, thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Let me allow.
Thank you, Commissioner.
My specialist is a technocrat on these matters.
Good day, everyone. With regards to emergency protocols, the department has established WhatsApp groups between the district coordinators, the school principals, where daily challenges are reported. And within the group, we also have officials from COSATMA who then see through that a group that there is a problem where that needs to be attended to.
A follow-up to that. How effective are those channels?
For, let's say, since the reopening of 2025, we have seen a vast improvement in when we were using those channels. Even the emergency line was established, but it was only used for, I think it lasted from the beginning of the reopening until the end of January. But we made a request to COSATMA that it needs maybe to run on daily basis, because it helped to resolve so many problems that we encountered as the schools were reopening. So I believe they have been effective.
Okay, I will deal with that maybe later. What is the level of involvement of the department in this program?
Like my official has indicated, on a daily basis, I indicated earlier when I started that we have the directorate responsible for transportation, and therefore daily they receive such reports. And in our executive management, we have a standing item on scholar transport to report, so that we can be able to see and oversee such matters. Therefore, at each level, school, second management, second coordinator, the district, and the executive, because in the executive then we liaise HOD to HOD on matters of school transport on a regular basis.
Okay, that's fine. Tell me, or tell the commissioner, is this relationship between Department of Education and COSATMA working when it comes to this program? Or you would appreciate to have the program back? So that there's no intermediaries. You deal with the issues as they happen. Let me put a context to that. The chairperson of the portfolio committee indicated on Tuesday when he was testifying that there was an item that was sponsored for debate on Tuesday to ask or to make a recommendation that this item be moved back to education. Do you agree with that view?
I'm not authorized to consider it, but I know that the discussions have started. For now, I can say that the relationship is working. We are communicating. There are challenges pertaining to budget constraints. Until such time they then conclude on this matter, the EXCO of the province, then I will be able to speak to that.
Okay, no, it's fine. Let me ask it differently. Is this relationship working?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Are you satisfied with the fact that you wrote communication to the department, to COSATMA last year to request an increase, or to request that 8,000 learners be accommodated? And your letter was acknowledged in December, and you were told that we will look at our finances and provide a response. That was December. Now it's towards the end of the financial year, and you are in You are blind as to, I'm not using that word in a disrespectful way, you are not aware of the decision of those 8,000 students coming the 1st of April, since the new financial year starts. Whereas, if this item was lying in your department, you would have seen that this is how much we have, this is how we can move around and accommodate those 8,000 children.
You'll recall, Commissioner, that the issues of money and budget is a problem. We are under austerity measures, and we do reprioritize. I must indicate that those learners have not been disadvantaged because we have been able to provide for them to be accommodated and be taught. Even if it was with us, given the pest that we have, we wouldn't come with any magic wand, but to ensure that these learners are accommodated, these learners are taught. I'm aware that we have submitted the request for these learners to be supported, and we've been promised that come the new financial year, they might come up with something. But I must assure you that these learners are not disadvantaged. They are not lying to someone not learning. As a department, we took responsibility to ensure that these learners are learning, despite the situation.
The chairperson of the portfolio committee on Monday indicated that a request was made. The team will remind me, I don't want to misquote him, to say that they requested a report to ask as to where are these learners right now, and to date they have not received that response. Page? Yes. Page 50. So 6.3, can you say it? Can you introduce that paragraph into record?
The Department of Education must submit a detailed report of the 9,045 learners in need of scholar transport, but not provided for, including of those learners who are they still in school. Six point
6.3.
I've read it.
No, it's not complete. Can you start again? 6.3, page 50.
6.3 only.
Yes.
Sorry for that if I didn't read everything. The Bureau of Education must submit a detailed report on 9,045 learners in need of scholar transport, but not provided for, including which schools are they from, how many kilometers have been done per school, grades of those learners, or are they still in school? Yeah, I just omitted one sentence. Sorry for that.
Okay. Have you submitted this document?
We did submit the document, but there were certain omissions. Only number of learners, we realize now that only number of learners and number of schools and names of schools were submitted, but not the grades and their whereabouts. Except when we did the final needs analysis in 2024, we did then indicate in our submission what is currently happening with those learners. Are they in school? What mode of transport are they currently using? And what could be the reason why they need transport.
Were you here when the honorable, the chairperson was testifying?
Yes.
What was his response to this particular question?
He indicated that they did not receive the report.
For sake of progress, can, as well, through you, chairperson, receive that report and receive even, okay, how was it sent to them?
I will answer in my capacity. My role in the department, I collect information from the districts, consolidate, and then submit the final report through the director, who then submits to the DDG, then ASG. So I did submit the report to the director, who then indicated they submitted to the DDG.
Do you understand now that you are changing from the initial response to say they received it? You sent it, I mean.
No, I said we did do the report, it is there, then we sent the report, yes. But the fact that MP said they did not receive the report, I don't know what went wrong there.
Are you aware of what might have happened above you on the report? Because you are painting a picture that you are not the one that sent it.
No, I'm not aware.
So we cannot confirm for sure that it was sent out from the department.
Yes.
Through Commissioner, can we receive that report? And can we also, if it was sent out, receive maybe, if it was hand delivered, received that confirmation of delivery? If it was sent through email, an attachment of that email that dispatched, more so that the Mr. Sonagile said that report was not received. And I think when provincial manager was speaking, only 4 of the 19 resolutions were responded to, or they received those reports. Now, let's move on. You said in your communication that in page 138, due to some of these challenges, learners miss classes. And then the first I'm talking to the first column, where you speak of fatigue that happen as a result of these challenges. So the accommodation of these 8,000 learners, are they walking to school, and what type of accommodation are you talking about? Do they walk to school? How are they getting the catch-up education, that is, if there is a way of them being accommodated?
Commissioner, may we be afforded the opportunity to provide a detailed report on these learners, which is also linked to 6.3. Where are they? What is currently obtaining with them? We will provide that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next paragraph, you speak that because of non-payment, which I'm not gonna put to you, we'll deal with it when we're speaking to COSATMA. To your knowledge, how many buses or contractors have withdrawn their service because of this problem of late payment to non-payment?
Commissioner, I don't have any response to that one. Thank you.
can I request that information be collected, because probably you would know that how many learners have not come to school through your processes.
Thank you.
Please. You spoke that there's an intervention that you are doing with COSATMA wherein there you are ramping up inspections. How are the inspections done?
Commissioner, I would indicate that at each level we have monitoring, which will obviously you would say we need to provide a report. Corporate, the district, usage of our circuit managers, the principals themselves, as well as our partners. Like we say, on a quarterly basis, we have a meeting with our partners, our unions. Tomorrow I'm meeting NAPTOSA. One of the issues that we're discussing there is also scholar transport. All of us have a responsibility to look at this matter, but also inform us in the event of any challenge. So there are these levels where we are all concerned with the scholar transport, and we talk about it. And like I said, quarterly, I've got meetings with the unions. Next week it will be SATU and NAHAO. We've got our SGPs. So we've got structures that are geared. But also in education, we've got a directorate that is responsible, led by a director. There's a DDG, and then for all of us, and in cooperation with COSATMA, we always communicate on these matters. So that is a level of monitoring that we're putting in place to ensure that we provide equipment and resources for effective learning and teaching of our learners.
Two last questions from me, then I will hand over to the team to deal with other aspects which came up. Can we go to page 140 of the pack? It's a letter that is coming from COSATMA under the hand of Dr. Kekan. Can you read the first paragraph, the second paragraph, the background of that document?
Factors such as long distances, learners have to walk to the nearest school, geographical planning of rural settlements, and slanted provision of infrastructure, public transport and schools, make it difficult for learners to reach schools on time. Some learners commute on foot for more than 20 kilometers on daily basis, even during unconducive weather conditions, compromising their safety and exposing them to bullying along the way to and from schools. And this impacts negatively on their academic performance. Schools' rationalization, realignment process have also impacted negatively on learners, as most of them have to attend schools at the nearest village.
Do you have a view on this loaded paragraph?
For now, no, say. In terms of issues of particularly the walking of 20 kilometers, I'm seeing it.
That's where I want to go.
Yeah. Because our view is that.
Okay. Is it acceptable that some learners would walk over 20 kilometers?
The provision of scholar transport is to alleviate learners walking more than 5 kilometers.
No. Mr. Kekana here is saying some learners walk up to 20 kilometers per day. Is that acceptable?
As I'm not the author of this Commissioner, and with due respect, I will be speculating on what he's saying. What I know is that it can't be acceptable, Commissioner.
Okay, no, it's fine. Let me deal with that part later. Let's talk about the issue of rationalization. How much of a role does it play in terms of affecting the teaching and learning, and especially access in terms of learners having to go to some other schools because of your rationalization program?
Commissioner, we should indicate that what is the reason for us rationalizing? It is with a view to optimize the structures and the resources with a view to improving efficiency and effectiveness. You'll find that schools within one area, there are about 4 or 3 secondary schools. Therefore, some become unviable, and you find that even the provision of curriculum is similar. And therefore, the reason why we rationalize is to ensure that we maximize the curriculum, but also with an advent of these 3 streams models, we will then have schools of specialization. And those schools that are small and non-viable will then be merged with a view to maximizing the resources and teaching and learning and improving our curriculum. So it's not because we want to do it willy-nilly, but we look at all those factors to say, is this school still viable to all of them? Providing, say, they are all commercial schools and they are sharing resources, learners are few in one school, therefore we rationalize. So it is with a view of efficiency and effectiveness. And we will consult, obviously, with everybody before we can even implement that rationalization process. So it's about efficiency and effectiveness.
Okay, no, it's fine. I'm saying it's fine because with the benefit of the team, I've been assisted. This document is coming from your predecessor. So there's an admission from your department that some learners walk up to 20 kilometers per day. So is that acceptable? And if you check, the signature of your predecessor is on page 141. It's dated, the document is dated as 6 December 2024, last year December. So what is your view now that it is coming from your department? And I want to withdraw and apologize to Dr. Kekana for attributing this document to him.
I'm saying it's not acceptable. That's why even learners who are walking more than 5 kilometers, it is not acceptable. Hence, my predecessor wrote to COSATMA for intervention.
Okay. Now, rationalization seems to be one of the reasons that have increased the number of the need for scholar transport from this document. And for completeness, there is a view from Sanko and SATU saying that there's no consultation. You just do this thing and implement. And as a result, you did engage with SATU. You've agreed going forward that there will be that engagement. But prior to the meeting that you had, you were just implementing this thing without consultation. That is their position on this.
I'm having a meeting with SATU Tomorrow is NAPTOSA, the same item is on the agenda. SATU is on the 25th to discuss this matter. I said earlier, much as I acknowledge that it is from my department, as not an author of this document, I will be speculating. I'm taking charge as a departmental head now, but I need to consult with my predecessor on this matter. But we will be dealing with this matter with the unions as to how best we can deal with these matters. But I've indicated the rationale behind the rationalization.
No, we accept the rationale. We do. But for me, there seems to be a rush in implementing this without covering all the bases. Because yes, the school might not be functioning in terms of other things, but what is the rationale of implementing this if you've not been given or made provisions for transporting these children?
That is noted, Commissioner. We will respond to it. It's noted and accepted. The argument, we will respond to it in time.
What do you mean by you will respond to it?
Because I've said the author here is attesting that as a result of rationalization, this has cost 1, 2, 3. And therefore, I don't want to contradict my colleague on this matter. I'm saying to you, it is not acceptable even for above 5 kilometers. When we rationalize, I'm of the view, from my knowledge, that when you do that exercise, you can't complete such a serious exercise without consulting even the parents of the learners. It will be unacceptable. It's unprocedurable. So there is no rush. I don't know what might have been the reason why we're saying we're rushing it, but we have rationalized schools with a view to ensuring that learners are effectively supported.
I have a difficulty with your response, but we will deal with it in submissions because you are disowning this document from your predecessor, and this pack was shared with you as early as Tuesday. I would have expected that all the consultations would have happened within your department so that you own up to what is happening here. But let me proceed. I'll deal with it when I argue later. The provincial the provincial manager yesterday, when speaking to this issue of rationalization, she mentioned that you saving money because of rationalizing, but there's another line item of budget that is being increased. And in Northwest, it is said from the Ages report that, the Treasurer's report, the Northwest Treasury, to say that this province is paying double the other provinces when it comes to scholar transport. So you're saving on one aspect and drastically increasing the budget on the other aspect. What is your view? Because rationalization is meant to save. But if there's this element of now over 4,000 learners that have been added, let me put context, the 4,000. The initial number when we wrote an allegation letter to you, it was 5,000. And then when we send now the invitation for you to make submission, you looked at your books and the number now was sitting at 8,000. We are yet to consolidate and decide on which number is correct, because there's an 8,000 number, there's a 9,000 number, but safe to say a 4,000 figure because of rationalization came in, and now the budget is inflated drastically. So now the rationalization is not serving the purpose that you are trying to achieve.
Commissioner, we will look at that. The issue I indicated earlier, the numbers that are fluctuating when we started the discussion are as a result of enrollment that increases in some areas decreasing. I've indicated the rationale for rationalization to say is to maximize resources and ensure efficacy. Now, if then that is viewed as a matter of increasing or inflating the budget, I would not like to respond to now, because the budget is that of COSATU, is not ours. Ours is the need. We need so much, and therefore, okay. So I've provided the rationale for rationalization to consolidate those schools that have a similar curriculum in one area, to consolidate them into one, with a view to also to introducing your three-stream model of curriculum, but also to deal with non-viable schools. And you said it very well, Commissioner, to say probably at some point we would do that, not thinking about other challenges, but the rationale is the same. And it is not our aim to inflate the budget, which might not be ours necessarily, but ours is to get serviced by COSATMA. And if they are unable to service us because of budgetary constraints, they indicate that, to say we'll see that in the next financial year. But it is not intended in any way to do any unscrupulous work, but to ensure that our learners are taught in a conducive environment. But let me allow my legal director to speak.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm not sure whether I was following the question, and I'm not sure whether the response would be answering your question, but in regards to, let me start by introducing the fact that I also took office last year, 1st of November, and I was fortunate to attend some of the meetings. And in one of the meetings that I've attended, is with regards to the numbers that increase. I don't know how to put it, but the issues here, we have a number of learners each year, and then they'll be declared around June. Then we'll have, let me say, for example, we have 100 students in Dr. KK. Then we go back January, the same numbers are declared. We had a challenge that learners cannot be retained, learners not documented, like we have learners which are not documented. So when we declare learners which are documented. We have, like, you'll have, let's say in June you had 100. January they declare 120. We revisit again on February, you'd find that there's a declaration of 150 learners, and we have no records of those learners as they are not documented. So me saying that is sometimes we have a shift of numbers that somehow we cannot account for because the learners, we do not have records. I'm saying this because I also had a personal experience in January where I went to one of the schools in RTBS. The principal indicated that I had enrolled more than 90 learners which are not documented. And they also need transport. So at that stage, she was seeking intervention. So meaning, if we had submitted our records to say X school has 30 learners to be transported, we later on find ourselves that we had an increase which is not documented. We need to go and inspect that to say the number has increased and so learners or so numbers of learners are not documented because they cannot send them home. So that's where we sometimes find that challenge to say the increase of numbers, it's made by that. And at this stage, what I'm aware of is we have a unit that it's either on a quarterly, let me not say, I'll be speculating, but I know that we always confirming numbers so that when they allocate for specific units, we are able to say so school has numbers, so school has a certain need. So that is done frequently because I've said on those meetings where we needed to confirm numbers. The issues that I just raised is that the numbers of learners that are not documented, it sometimes gives, we cannot really record. I'm not saying we can't record. We've recorded that number. We later go to the school to find we have a different number.
Okay, no. Thank you very much. But the difficulty with that answer lies here. A response came from the department in August indicating 5,000. And then in December, the number increased to 8,000. So there are no dynamics of new admissions in between or major numbers of increase in terms of admission. This is as a result of rationalization, not because of undocumented. They may play a role, but not to that extent. I think an acceptable response was that we will go and look and revisit this response. I wanted to ask the last question, but I remember that I would be doing injustice if I don't ask this one. Then I hand over. There's an issue, or in the SLA. I will ask the department, COSATMA, regarding this part. In the SLA, they want a declaration or an affidavit from the driver to declare that the driver is not listed in the sexual offences register. When they are dealing with children. That I think is provided for in the sexual offences, and that's the new act. Have you requested, as the department, as the custodian of the children, that those affidavits be shared with you, especially of all those drivers?
I will also speak on the capacity ever since I got into office. And this is personal knowledge. I consulted with one of the unit members who came for advice regarding such information. And I did advise that we indeed really need to receive such. We need to do that vetting and confirm that we do not have such offenders or such people as part of the team that will be transporting our learners. So in terms of whether the submission went to the office, and that was done immediately when I got into office, that was done. So I'm not sure whether the submission went through, but I did advise that, and it was not through me, it was through a colleague who deals with the unit to verify that important aspect, whether it should be left with the Department of Transport or we should also be involved. So I can confirm that we indeed engaged with receiving such, but however, as to whether it has been communicated to the other department, I cannot confirm that.
When specifically was that communicated or that discussion took place?
I can't really be specific, but like I said, it's during when I started office. And the reason why I'm saying this is at that time, I have not yet, I did not know a lot of people or recognize faces, but I had an appointment where they requested an advice on that part or on that aspect, sorry.
Did you not receive a handover report? Because children are very sensitive and sexual offenses are key because we are dealing with GBV now. I think it would have been obvious to say, this is one critical aspect that I have to have it as a legal officer in my file to account to say, driver Emmanuel Nkonde is listed or not listed.
You are correct to say that. I think it's one of the matters that I took into heart, and unfortunately, I can't confirm that I really made a follow-up. But I did. This is my daily running of the business in the department to make sure that the safety or their interest. I run with them on a daily basis. So to an extent that I communicate directly with parents or the school. So that's why I'm answering that one. As to that advice, we did advise that unit to request the declarations.
Okay.
I will just end there.
I think
May I just come in? I'm not hearing the answer. The question is, was handing over done?
Sorry, Commissioner. Handover, it was not done.
I was going to leave it because I know that it is one of the aspects that it's part of the commissioner's work. My parting question, an honest answer, and I'm sure maybe you might have answered it. Are you happy with the service that you are receiving from COSATMA? That's my last question. Are you happy with the service? Yes or no?
You see, a yes or no answer is problematic, Commissioner. I'm only 20 days and there's a directorate and there are challenges that we've raised. And therefore, Commissioner, it will be very much difficult to give a yes answer when we've got a plethora of challenges. But what I can tell you is that we are working very closely with the HOD, although I know that I'll be gone soon. But every day we're working closely on these matters to improve. I know, provincial manager, I'm trying to be smart around this without saying yes or no. It's deliberate. There's a plethora. I know there's going to be a bunch of questions. There are issues which impact on teaching and learning. There are issues that impact on the safety and security of learners. which we are improving. So this is a very relative answer that I'm giving. It might not be direct, but we are hoping to improve this situation. Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner, my question was not answered, but I'm handing over to my team, to the team. Thank you.
Maybe it's time to just remind the panel of the department. Section 15 is very clear that you must answer even those incriminating questions. So you are called upon to really account, and we have already said acting HOD, as much as there is that word next to your title, acting, it makes you no less accountable. You must still account. And that is why it is imperative to always ensure that there's proper handing over when you take over a portfolio. You make sure that you understand exactly what is it that you're getting yourself into. So even those questions that are very uncomfortable, you will have to answer. You might be 20 days into the directorate, but I want to hear from you, having heard of the challenges that have been stated by SATUF, by NAPTOSA, by SANCO, by Ntate Dazuga, who's our champion, and also Ntate Offense. What are you saying about the situation? It might be so that it's 4 provinces that have got this in their department still, whilst 5 does not, or it could be vice versa. But once you take over, you need to school yourself. You learn everything that has to do with the role. And then you are able to account properly. I hope that is understood.
It's understood, Commissioner. Indeed, I was alluding to issues that simply underscores that we are not happy with the current situation.
Over to you, Mr. Mtabe.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think the best approach for us would be to have a conversation, right? And to really unpack it from this background. Let me start with section 29 of the Constitution. I would not read the entire thing. I'll just read the first part. So the section says, everyone has the right to a basic education, including adult basic education. Everyone has a right. So everyone there also includes, I would imagine, someone who is undocumented in the country. Even worse if it is a child. So everyone there includes. So that is going to be the context of our conversation today. So the Constitution says everyone has a right to basic education. These words have energies attached to them, and we want to unpack the energies attached to this word. So everyone going forward would be a conversation about documented and undocumented. That is already established in not only the Constitution, but in a number of constitutional court cases. Which means there's an obligation. Therefore, the question that we have to establish today is whether there is planning for that obligation. And then number 2, we are going to have an honest conversation about the implementation of the policy. there are key sites in the policy which we are going to touch on for the purposes of our conversation. Our conversation is going to be very less about what COSATMA does. Our conversation should be about what the department does. And so I want to limit the scope of our conversation. And I think with those parameters, we are going to kickstart our conversation. Now, I think that lays the background. You don't have to necessarily agree with it, but I'm just saying we're going to have an honest conversation about it. And also remind you, Mr. Macedo, that you are under oath. It is also important to have an honest conversation about these issues. What the South African Human Rights Commission has to do as part of this inquiry is to establish whether there is at the very least, a prima facie violation of a human right. On Tuesday, we were told by Mr. Tazuga that there are certain issues attached to the realization of the right to education. I'll touch on these issues. I'll mention them specifically. And then on the same day, we were told by Mr. Ofente Khaitate that there are issues attached to the realization of the right to education. And then on the same day, in the evening, we were told by Mr. Freddy Sonakile that there are also issues that are attached to the realization of the right of access to basic education. I will not go as far as to mention what the Treasury said, and I'll also not touch on what Naptosa said, but I would like to touch on what are the observations of SANCO were. So the key themes that are coming out of their submissions are that we are seeing transports that are unroadworthy. We are seeing overloading and multiple trips. We are seeing late payments of operators. We are seeing non-compliant vehicles. In your document at page 137, at paragraph number 4, you mention the same issues. Is it all right for this inquiry to say this is a concession that these challenges do exist? Is this document, does this part of your document rather constitute a concession that at the very least these challenges do exist?
Yes, Commissioner.
You also say at paragraph number 5, as a breakdown of these issues. So then in the first column, you say, as a result of unworthy vehicles, the net effect of that is that we are seeing an increase in absenteeism, and we are also seeing a compromise on safety of learners, and there is then a likelihood of accidents. Is that also a concession on your part?
Yes, Commissioner.
And then on the next page, at 138, you say there is overloading, and as a result of that, the impact of learners is as follows. We are seeing stampedes, we are seeing fatigue, and there's also a likelihood of accidents. Is that also a concession on your part?
Yes, Commissioner.
You also say, as a result of late payment of operators, we are seeing inconsistent services, and this may lead to absenteeism, okay? And then it may also compromise the safety of learners. Is that a concession on your part?
Yes, Commissioner.
As a result of non-compliant, in the next column you say, this leads to this non-compliant of vehicles. This leads to learners being overloaded, and this also leads to learners being involved. In this instance, there's no likelihood. They are involved. You say they are involved in accidents. Is this also a concession on your part?
In other words, it's a deduction, take into account all those instances that have been mentioned. Do you also then agree?
Yes, Commissioner.
They can then, having done that, they can then, it is now common cause that a portion of the evidence that was led on yesterday and the day before that has now been conceded. So much of the complaint, which constitutes the basis of this inquiry, has now been conceded. Would you say then that all of these themes, let's call them themes, let's call them issues rather, all of these issues are important issues for the realization of the right to education?
Yes, Commissioner.
Would you say, let me ask it differently, would you say if we had roadworthy vehicles, and if we had no overloading, and if we had payments being done on time, and we had vehicles that were compliant, we would not have this intrusion on the right to education?
Yes, Commissioner.
Would you then concede that much of these issues constitute a violation of the right to Section 29, which is the right to basic education?
Yes, Commissioner.
Would you say much of these issues, to the extent that there is responsibility for the department is the violator of the right to education for the purposes of our conversation today?
May you repeat your question?
There is a concession to 100% of these themes as they come out of the complainants. And these complainants, I've already mentioned them. And there is a concession that all of these issues constitute a core of the right to education. And to the extent that the department has identified these issues, that it has conceded that in fact they are a core, they constitute a core of the right to education, is the department now in the position to say, as far as its responsibility goes, it is now a violator of the right to education, at least in the parameters of these issues? Nothing more than this. You're not violating the entire right.
Oh, yes. But that must also be qualified. I don't want to be technical about the answer, but remember, this is a joint relationship. It's not a one-sided duty to one party. I think it's one of those things or one of those statements where they would say, oh, in our community, we've been raised by a village. So it means each party must play their role. And we have policies, regulation, legislations, which we believe that people must follow. And if we find ourselves, we are in a relationship and we have policies that we've put in place that we are going to follow, and one of the members or whosoever was responsible at that time does not comply with their policies, somehow it breaks the relationship, it breaks the whole chain. So I can't say, like you said, to an extent that the Department of Education, we indeed somehow failed. Maybe I would say, I'll be speculating that what did we not do as the department, but we have raised issues that are of concern. And remember, we've delegated that portion to this department to assist. And we've delegated because of they are specialists, they can assist with that. Mina, as the legal representative, I wouldn't know if the bus is not roadworthy. I will just do a judgment. But I'm not saying I'm not taking the liability on my side, but all I'm saying is it's a unit, it's a relationship where we need to work together to achieve one goal. So to an extent, there's a certain things that we were supposed to do, and which my other colleagues can confirm that we indeed did this part or not do this part.
Yeah, I suspected we were going to have that conversation. Okay. Let me tell you what we have achieved. What we have achieved is that there is a general acceptance that the complaint is valid, that the complaint constitutes a violation. The next part of our conversation would then have to be, what is it that we have failed on, so that we can begin to talk about that as a conversation. And I want us to really then kickstart that conversation. Commissioner, there is a concession that there has been a violation, and that this violation is constituted by these following things. This concession is made from the document as they exist at page 137 of the report of Mr. Mashilo. This report says the impact that is identified at paragraph 5, as well as the challenges as identified at paragraph 4, constitute a violation of the right to basic education. What they have not conceded to is that the department is responsible for that violation. That is where the conversation now is going to go. The question now is the obligation question. And much of your conversation really with my learned colleague, Mr. Konde and the chairperson of the commission of the inquiry rather has been about identifying and touching what these responsibilities or obligations are. But I want us to work with a piece of a policy. I want us to work with policy. My submission on this would be that this policy is adopted. It's at page 199. I was going to come to the page, but I just wanted to lay background. This policy is adopted in terms of legislation, and as a result, this policy then qualifies as delegated legislation. It is binding on the department and is binding on all departments that are involved. Do you have a comment on that?
If this document it's signed by all departments, it is binding.
A policy introduced under legislation is delegated legislation. It is a policy that is introduced by the executive that derives its power from the Schools Act. It derives its power from the Constitution. And in terms of this policy, we advise that this policy is adopted by the Minister of Transport and under section, I think it's section 85 of the Constitution, 85 2B of the Constitution. So it's an executive authority. It does not need to be signed by other parties. Would you say this policy is binding on the department?
It is binding.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to the principles of this policy. These principles, Chairperson, exist at, we find them at page 238. It's 238 of our bundle. It's page 238, 238 of our bundle. We'll not read all of the principles that are part of this policy, but let's read the ones at towards the end. All right, this is a different policy. Let's not refer to this one. Let's go straight to the policy that I wanted to refer to. So we'll not discuss the principles. I'm sorry about that. I referred to a wrong policy. So please pardon me. So let's go to page 222. It's 222 of our bundle. So in that page there, we have I think it's 4 points. You'll tell me what's your view on this. So the first one is that there's a joint responsibility of the Provincial Department of Transport and Education. So the first point there says, this joint responsibility extends to developing plans and implementation of strategies on learner transport. It's a joint intervention. Number 2 is that both departments have to report on progress on the provision of learner transport on quarterly basis. That is to the national department. Number 3, both departments have the responsibility of planning for learner transport routes. And then number 4, both departments have the joint responsibility of procurement and management of services. Would you say, in terms of practice, the procurement and management of service, from the conversation that we just had now with Mr. Konde, is not a joint effort? You said earlier, all you do as a department is you have to identify the needs and then submit the needs report to COSATMA for the purposes of procurement of service providers. What would you say is the extent of this joint effort, at least in relation to procurement and management of the service providers?
No, it's fine. Like I indicated earlier, we will identify the needs and hand them over to, that is the status quo for now.
That's not the question.
Yeah, the question is,
To answer the question, as painful as it has to be dealt with, it is straightforward. It emanates from 2.1.1.8, the last part thereof. And of course, the heading being joint responsibilities of the Provincial Department of Transport and Education, procurement and management of service providers. Can we have your reaction to that, Acting HOD?
Commissioner, our answers would seem as if we are not even prepared or we don't understand what we are trying to say to the Commission. But from where I'm going to talk through the records which are submitted, the responsibility, I don't know whether it's from the discussions which were had or so, but from what I've picked up, the entire procurement of the learners transport, it liaises with the other department, because from the records, I do not see where we do anything in terms of the procurement section of the transport. I'm speaking only on records because I cannot really confirm that, but from what I've picked up, I don't see where we advertise or deal with anything that has to do with transport for those learners.
It's a yes or no question. Then do you agree that this responsibility, at least at the level of procurement, is a joint responsibility?
Commissioner, like I said in the beginning, this is a relationship where, sorry about that, it's a joint relationship, and the policy also allows us to negotiate, and somehow maybe if we want to run the business of the day, we need to divide the work among us as to how the operations of the business will run. That's why I said I'll find myself answering as if I do not understand the purposes of the sitting. I'm speaking because of the records here. In terms of the policy indeed states so and so and so, but in practice, I don't see that on paper that we jointly doing such. On paper, no. I just noting the policy.
On paper, that is exactly what is captured. Whether it is done practically, is that what you mean? Whether it's done practically, that's an issue for someone else to respond to. But on paper, that is what is expected of both departments.
Let me answer that as well. Remember, as part of facilitating the whole thing, to an extent that we secure these transports, we need to gather information. I would say, for a lack of a better word, we do those specifications for the unit, for transport, meaning we'll be sending numbers, we'll be identifying schools, we'll be identifying the distance, those measures in order for transport, maybe to determine how many buses we would need. I'm just
Is there a further document, maybe? Just sorry to interject there. Is there a further document? Maybe there's an addendum to the policy where you don't define your role, which you are now alluding to. Is that what has been done in this case? Because just looking at the document, prima facie, there's evidence to say that this is expected of you as the department, which you must then be able to answer when questions are being posed regarding procurement, regarding management of service providers, because this is within your mandate as per the policy that was signed by the Minister of Transport.
Commissioner, I do understand. Like I said, one of the issues it would be that I'm not sure whether there's another document, an addendum to that, but the policy on its own, it's not clear as to exactly who must do what. So I would believe that we as two departments, we need to find consensus as to how we work on that procurement. Hence, we don't have that part in our department.
At the risk of having a dialogue there, Council, but I think it is straightforward. It says a responsibility. This is a joint responsibility for the departments.
May I follow up whether we do have an addendum to this section, this particular point, because
which will be in conflict with the policy that has been signed by the Minister of Transport.
I understand, but I would want to take it further. Like I said, on records we have only transport dealing with transport issues, and we only provided with that information, but however, I would not want to answer more on that, as the rest of the information I'll be speculating.
Unfortunately, you have to answer. You remember what I read to you when you took the podium. I read to you section 15, which says, Council, you can even incriminate yourself with regard to the answers that you must give. You are there in your role to give the commission the answers it seeks in order to be able to address the plethora of issues with regard to transport of scholars, which is within the department's mandate to oversee the right to education, which we say it is a human right. And let me not allow you to say anything further and go back to Mr. Mdabe to then proceed.
There was also a mention of a deviation from the policy, which is, in practice, this is what is happening, even though policy is saying this. Is there a concession that there is deviation from policy?
I will also allow my colleague to add. That's why hence I said I'm speaking from the records that we have. If I have an SLA in my possession that was signed between transport and a service provider, and as the department I've never drafted or I don't have such, I would say that unit was not within. That's why I said I'm answering based on the records before us.
I don't know if this would assist in answering the question. With the national policy, yes, it is outlined that it is the joint responsibility for both departments to procure services and manage the scholar transport. But we have a signed memorandum of understanding between the two departments, which clearly outlines the roles that each department has to play. And it is stated that the Department of Community Safety and Transport Management will procure the services, will have the legal binding contract between them and the service providers, while Department of Education identifies the needs.
Yeah, I understand that part, and I knew we were going to have an extended conversation around this. Okay, the memorandum is then it gives effect to the policy, right? That's my interpretation. I'm going to solicit your comment on this, and I don't want to stay on this question. Remember, what we are trying to establish here is where the responsibility lies. We've already established that there is violation. Now let's talk about the responsibility. To the extent that the policy says joint responsibility, notwithstanding what is said on the memorandum, the energy of the word joint responsibility would mean whichever party falters between the Department of Transport and Department of Education, the effect of that joint responsibility is that each party, to the extent that there is violation, is then responsible jointly for the violation. You can't disassociate yourself from the violation, despite this disassociation being suggested in the memorandum of understanding. What is your comment on that score?
Commissioner, I think it is very clear that we assume some form of regularization of what is in the policy. But as indicated, we will then have to assume the joint responsibility of issues. You will recall that there'll be a policy, there'll be regulations, there'll be circulars, MOUs, trying to simplify some of but ultimately the policy will take precedence on matters. Thank you.
Would we then say the total sum of that is that these violations can be attributed to the department now, today, the department before us today? Can we attribute this violation to the department as a result of that language in the policy?
Maybe before we respond to that, which is something that, from your perspective, is simple. Which policy, which year is this policy? Was this draft? Do we have any revised policy on this matter? Just for argument's sake, of this draft?
It's March 2022. It's the national learner transport policy. It was adopted in March 22. Let me look for a specific date.
On the outside, it says second draft review, and it's dated July 2023. On page 199. Page 199. We're not trying to run away from what you're saying. We just want to be sure.
That's the policy that I'm referring to. That's the one.
2023, eh?
Yeah. This policy is not our policy. It was provided by the department, and 198 it indicates that this is an attachment to the department's document. So it's not information from us.
Okay, we're still consulting. We'll come back to you.
I think, Chair, Commissioner, I don't think we, as the panel here, we are referring to the same policy. And the policy that's before us, the one that the 2023, I think July 2023. I just want to confirm whether it has been signed or not, because we've been working on the old policy. So that's why I'm busy perusing the entire file. So Hands on the, sorry.
From what I gather, this is the presentation that was sent to the province, and this is also the PM is alluding to, that save for the presentation, but this was one of your attachments. So it should be in the knowledge of, within the knowledge of the department, this document. It was not, as Mr. Mdabe says, it was not provided by the South African Human Rights Commission, it was provided by the department.
Commissioner, may we get just less than 5 minutes indulgence just to verify that, because this, I believe this document was not signed and we are not referring to it. As far as our discussion here, the policy that has been regulating us, it's not the one before us here. Just less than 5 minutes.
Yeah, we are going to give you indulgence in order to look at the documents you submitted, and also maybe to prep for how to respond to the question that has already been posed. We are going to take an early lunch, but it's only going to be until 1 o'clock. I hope the food is ready, because unfortunately we also have to hear COSATMA.